Happy April, everyone. I know it's a day after when I would usually upload it, but I wanted to make it clear that this patch notes video is no joke. We've got two very fun tournaments running this month between the Hallmark Invitational 5th Annual Revolution World Championships, as well as a new variant format in Archaeologist for the end of season Grand Prix. We have a lot to dig into, so let's get started. As always, there are links in the description below for your key resources to check out all things Revolution Custom Standard, such as the Custom Magic Discord server where you can get updates about and play the format against others, as well as check out all of the cool cards and sets that people in the community are designing. The Revolution Compendium, where you can look through all of the cards the curators recommend for consideration in your decks, sorted by card roles. The official LackeyBot format search, a Scryfall-like search engine integrated to the same website as the compendium and tournament data, complete with patch history and data on what decks a card is seeing play in. And finally, Escape from Limbo, a website using the GitHub framework set up by Canterbury Egg and showcasing the cards in the format with complete visual spoilers, a random card button, a sets catalog, and a built-in deck builder. Check out all of these spaces with the links in the description below. One last note before we get into everything, there will be one additional link on top of the usual. I'll explain that shortly. Today brings a smaller balance patch aimed less at cutting down power outliers outright and more at sanding down some edges to bring the top decks down while maintaining their overall function. This will impact how decks look between Grand Prix Neostelia and World Champs 5, but not as much as patches might normally impact major decks between standard tournaments. We'll also talk a bit about this month's special format Archaeologist and what you can expect to see during Revolution's 5th World Championships. The broadest impact from this month's patch will be felt for Stargazing, which is losing its one spell named Stargazing each turn clause as compensation for also losing its endless repeatability. Now, after scrying and drawing, you can discard a card only if it was cast from your hand, causing it to be exiled, and then you can play it from exile on a future turn. This is the only card from the patch to have seen broader use across many strategies, both fast and slow, and I do think this is ultimately reasonable enough of a change given the strength of the card, but I think it'll continue to see steady play thanks to the strength of this effect even when you can only rebuy it once. I do think this gives slightly more room to things like Discern and Harbor Mail, and there is more merit to try those alternatives now than could have been said with the old version of Stargazing for sure, but I think this will still absolutely be worth playing. Up next, we have a hit to Goration the Stormlord, hiking his cost up from 7 to 8 mana. Goration is one of the primary proactive components of the Wish board for Iviana control lists, with an on-curve Iviana enabling an on-curve Goration the following turn, regardless of if you can hit a land drop. This nerf makes it so you now need an untapped land the following turn to curve out Goration, instead of being guaranteed it with the 5 lands and 2 treasures. I think the disruptive package of Asulio and Draconos Magistus is more than enough to ensure Iviana will continue to see play, and Goration will still be worth the trouble given the proactive functions of the card, especially since you can still curve out Goration without its 6th land if Iviana doesn't get damaged and can be downticked a second time. And again, if you do find another untapped land the turn after you play Iviana, you can still curve out Goration. It's just going to be less consistent overall. Probably the most painful change of the patch comes for Coy-Tail Myr, which is losing Menace. Mono Red Solidarity was a major emergent powerhouse last month, leveraging the diverse type lines of hasty red 1-drops right now to push a ton of damage utilizing the Solidarity 1-drops from Cyberos, building up Anthems turn after turn until each 1/1 represents a startling amount of damage if left unchecked. The deck's primary way of overwhelming the opponent came by way of hindering blocking, and Coy-Tail Myr's combination of both Menace and Haste was a key factor in that plan coming together, especially from hand. I do think the deck is still dependent enough on these unique types here, especially since it has Haste, to still be worth leaning on the Myr at least a little bit, but this is a solid hit to the strategy, especially since it's not the only way the deck's taking a hit. Despite being a mono-red deck, both Solidarity decks seen in last month's GP leaned on red dual lands, tapping for either blue or green, for the sake of getting the most use out of Edgeland Pledge. The guaranteed Solidarity token for 2 mana already worked cleanly with the game plan, and the flexible burn, tap down, and spontaneous 1/1 with haste all tied together make it a reliable top-end tool to help the deck push in more damage on a later turn. The tap-down mode was particularly key for removing a trio of blockers, which combined with the wide board and occasional creatures to menace, occasional creatures with menace to push through damage despite efforts to stabilize, especially since this Solidarity token does not proc the Solidarity ability, so you can still get Solidarity triggers from your shifters and your recruits. This was just proving to be a little bit too much of a top-end push. The tap-down mode for blue mana is being toned down slightly, only targeting up to 2 creatures now, which will hopefully couple with Coiltail Mirror's Loss of Menace to rein in how hard the deck can snowball through a wall of blockers. It can still pick off 3 blockers at once, though, if you choose to pay red and blue and kill a smaller blocker. Up next, we should talk about this month's special format, Archaeologist. For Grand Prix Silverglade, you're allowed to register a deck from any rotation the format has ever seen, from the original batch of 6 that kicked off the format in the summer of 2021, all the way through current Season 15's card pool that makes up our current standard format. In addition to the usual links in the description, you can also find the link to the full Revolution Grand Prix directory if you'd like to take a look through some of those top-performing decks of those various seasons. I should issue a word of caution. Though going back to look through older tournaments is a great resource to help you find what deck you want to play in Archaeologist, each format is keeping the current versions of the cards, so no nerfs are being reverted. This means that older decks are likely to have cards that were changed after their success. Take, for instance, H-Good's winning Mono Black Storm list from Grand Prix Winterholm in March of 2023. At first glance, this looks like a very strong shell, and it certainly has a lot of power behind it. But if you check the link next to the deck name, you'll see that several cards are highlighted in red on the deck's proper page. This denotes cards that were nerfed since the deck's original run, meaning that if you were to play H-Squid's list unchanged, you'd be playing it without accounting for the changes to Undercroft Poisoner, Demon of Darker Paths, Perspicacity, Extravagant Patisserie, or High Desecrator Nixilis. This isn't to say that every deck with cards that have been changed needs to be ignored, but just to be mindful of those changes, and maybe take some time looking through the format you're going to be the rotation you're going to be choosing to play, and making sure that you have adequate replacements if you feel those are necessary. Archaeologist also merges the ban lists of both Eternal and Standard, meaning we have 5 cards currently banned. On Borrowed Time from Secrets of the River City, Second X Radiance from Gutalia, Experimental Flight from Duelists of Varro, Extraction Ritual from Cyberos, and Extraction Mission from Cliques of Nylon. Before we move on, I do want to communicate something up front. I'm not sure if I will be competing in this month's Grand Prix, for reasons we'll get to soon, but if I do, I will not be recording that run. This is going to be a spectacularly busy Revolution month for me between the other big tournament coming up and the impending 2-set rotation announcement, which will certainly demand a heavy amount of time invested for that coming set review. If I wind up going deep into the tournament, I may record a key match or 2, but otherwise, if I compete this month, it'll be more for me than for content. I hope you understand. Lastly, we should talk about the big invitational event of the month and of the year. Revolution's 5th annual World Championship is upon us as we gear up to celebrate 5 years of the format in May. Worlds is a standard format special invitation tournament that bucks the usual style of Grand Prix. Rather than a Swiss bracket into a top cut, the tournament is double elimination, with the player that goes first in each match determined by whoever has earned more qualification points over the past year through winning tournaments and league seasons, with ties leading to the expected coin flips to determine who plays first. There are 16 players qualified for this special invitational event, and I'll run through all 16 and how each one qualified for this prestigious tournament. But before we do so, we should talk about the stakes. Whereas normal Revolution tournaments come with the prize of selecting a card from your deck to get a promo version of, commemorating your achievement, Worlds comes with a bigger prize, the opportunity to design your own champion card to celebrate your victory, such as Get Your Wish from Worlds 2024 or Fabricated Anomaly from Worlds 2025, celebrating the victories of Caillou 102 and Stasis Bot respectively. If you haven't qualified, however, that doesn't mean you should tune out altogether, because spectators also have the opportunity to design cards through the Fantasy Worlds bracket. Once the information regarding it goes live, you can vote for which of the 16 contenders you have pinned to win it all, and if your nominated player becomes our next world champion, you also earn the opportunity to design a card for the format, though your design will be competing against the designs by other players that predicted the same winner. There are a lot of strong contenders this month, and some very strong tiebreaker outliers. So, I should have shown this. These are examples of the Fantasy Worlds cards that you could expect to see. Cogwork Harvester designed by yours truly with Worlds 2024, and Offset Daemon designed by Red Pander's Bear. So, Lots of strong contenders this month, some very strong tiebreaker outliers. Let's dig in. Kicking off our bracket, we have our reigning Revolution World Champion, Stasis. Stasis went nearly completely undefeated last year, only finally taking their first loss in the finals match, but getting enough space from that undefeated bracket run to come back and win the grand finals. They tore up the field with Mant Builder, a mid-range enchantments strategy leaning on 2-mana enchantments that both committed bodies to the board while also helping to develop mana, so they could jump up to key 4-drops a turn ahead of schedule, coupled with a toolbox package supported by the deck's namesake card, Builder of Monuments. Their victory not only allowed them to create and introduce us to Fabricated Anomaly, but also qualified them for this year's tournament. Their run last year with a deck that, to that point, hadn't quite gotten anyone's attention, followed up a similarly explosive performance at Grand Prix Bastion d'Orlais in October 2024 with Extraction Mission, another deck people hadn't really seen coming, and has really cemented their pedigree as a deck builder with an eye on how to puncture the metagame with strategies not everyone will see coming. We also have two other players that qualified in April of last year, with one of the most fearsome competitors of this year's bracket being among them. Dr. Chipmunk won Grand Prix Halls of Valor, the inaugural Revolution Planechase tournament, with an Is It Tempo list built around Savvy Smith and Covetous Frostworm, coupled with strong interactive tools, cantrips, and value engines to grind through the high variance nature of the Planechase format. She then followed that up with 3 consecutive Grand Prix wins in the following season, the first player to ever win 3 tournaments back-to-back, at least to my knowledge. Nearly completely sweeping the ERR KDT tournament season, with her worst performance that season being a run-up to the semifinals in May. That hot streak has earned Chip a total of 4 qualifying points, towering above almost the entire rest of the field, though she's not the only one to sit that high up on tiebreakers. Though her tournament victories end in August, the rest of her qualifying season has been no picnic. In the 7 Grand Prix since, she's competed in 6 of them and made the top cut every single time, making it to the finals 2 more times and the semifinals another 3 from there. Chip is undoubtedly one of the top contenders, both thanks to her abundant success and her innovations to strategies ranging from Sultai Golems to Mere Tempo to Substitute Combo and Jeskai Control. And with her tiebreakers being so favorable, it's very likely that she's going to be able to set the pace for every single match she plays in. Our last qualifying player from April of last year is Revolution Curator PTM, who qualified from having the highest points total across the 4 months of the GQ Chaos Reigns League season. Much of his success came with the use of the strong top end and card advantage tools offered up to red-green ramp in the GQ season, locking in 4 separate 5-0 runs with the deck, as well as a 4-1 run with a Boros activated ability aggro list. PTM's no stranger to the Worlds field, having qualified twice before and making it to the grand finals of Worlds 2023 undefeated, though he was kept away from the crown by that year's winner, Purple Murasaki. He's earned a reputation as one of the format's most knowledgeable aggro players, but the diversity among decks he's registered proves that his experience goes far beyond Redburn. Our first player to qualify after April is none other than yours truly. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you know I've been hard at work for a long time now, grinding Grand Prix over the last 20 months or so. And while the quality of my decks can certainly vary, I'm fairly consistent at piercing the Swiss rounds and making it to the top cut these days, having competed in 9 of the last 12 Grand Prix and making it to the top cut in all but 2 of those. My qualification came during Grand Prix Mirage Expo, the kickoff of our first 2-set season, with a red-green aggro list leaning on the intersection of +1/+1 counter and self-discard synergy supported by Fabricated Anomaly and Spirit Realm Phoenix. I've been working hard to broaden my familiarity with a wide variety of different strategies and paces of play, recently capping off the World's qualifying season with a 2nd place finish at Grand Prix Neostelia, where I won 4 consecutive Dragon Control mirror matches. I'm certainly nervous about my first Worlds run, but I'll be doing my damnedest to take the rest of the field down. Our first player without any qualifying points is Platypeople, who got in courtesy of a 2nd place finish in Grand Prix Shigane Manor as the first of 3 players to be dealt a 2nd place title by Dr. Chipmunk in Season 13. Platy's no slouch, though. They're another member of the Curator team and made top cut in all 4 GPs during the Kitsuo and Weft season, as well as being the player to bring Mono Red Solidarity up to the top cut of last month's tournament. He's a storied competitor, having battled it out in a whopping 49 Grand Prix across the format's 5-year lifespan, as well as all 4 past World Championships, having his closest brush with the crown in 2024 with Black Red Ruins. There aren't any matches where he's guaranteed to be on the play, but he's got enough format knowledge to certainly set him up for success. Our second runner-up qualifier is Cat and Tree from July's Grand Prix Zakros. Cat has established themselves as a prolific player of all things tokens and aggro, often seen piloting Naya decks aimed at beating the opponent down as quickly as possible. Though their deck of yesteryear has seen some struggle as patches have hindered pieces like Penwrath Agenda and now Edgeland Pledge, they've also shown to have a solid grasp of what tokens looks like in the current moment because they recently matched their Zakros record this past February, taking down Chipmunk's Jeskai Battle Control to get the finals of Grand Prix Kindness City in February. If we see Kitsune Matriarch this month, I suspect it'll be in their hands, and their opponents should be rightfully afraid if so. The last of our runner-up qualifiers in this stretch is Provocative, who qualified in the Revolution Brawl tournament in Grand Prix Darkhand Enterprises with a semifinals finish, courtesy of the other semifinalist and both finalists already being qualified for the event. Don't let that fool you, though. Provocative started grinding Revolution in the lead up to Worlds 2025, building a reputation as a mono-green stompy savant, and taking their iconic deck all the way to a second-place finish in last year's World Championships, climbing out of the lower bracket to push Stasis to the brink and take their match to a second round of matches. Their deck of choice has pivoted since the Nylon buff patch introduced us to the reworked Penwrath Dispatcher, although certainly the loss of Theros Age of Trax did not help their mono-green aspirations. They've been seen jamming Naya mid-range where they can, including to a semifinals finish last November with the strategy. We'll have to see if Prov can get a repeat of their triumphs last year, or if they can even push to outdo their already stellar previous record. If the ERR in KDT season was ruled by Dr. Chipmunk, then the Exalts of Twiltree season was commanded fiercely by Lilasaur, our other competitor with 4 qualifying points. They took home the trophy for highest point total in both the summer and fall league seasons last year, as well as a pair of Grand Prix wins at Seven Toll Square and Everrhyme in October and November. They're a combo savant whose pedigree for finding and pushing combos to their limits has earned them a seat on the Curator team, courtesy of shells such as the Wake Up Call Fast Mana deck of Cybero Standard, Orbanoid combo in the Chikyu season, Rib Collector combo at the onset of Kitsuo and Weft, and the all-in Envoy Aristocrats deck of last November. They aren't just a skilled combo pilot, however, earning their 7-Toll Square trophy with Red-Green Ramp, as well as their second-place finish at Grand Prix Dawnbloom Grove with Green-White Eviction Session. They joined Dr. Chipmunk, their self-proclaimed nemesis, at the top of tiebreakers, with the only person who can possibly get them on the draw in Game 1 being Chip. Despite their success last fall, Lee fell at the finals of the first tournament of Twiltree season to Ricky Rister. A player synonymous with grand consonants, Ricky has had to navigate this qualifying year without their iconic card, but hit his stride during the Twiltree season thanks to the Reanimator package of Reclaim the Fallen and Shigani Manor Burns. The deck took some notable hits at the last rotation, but he's been grinding the list nonetheless. Ricky's also got a long history of performance in Rev's sister format, MSEM, with a nearly 65% lifetime win rate over 5 years of playing that format. We'll have to stay tuned to see if he has any Reanimator innovations in mind, or if he hits us with something completely new out of left field. Our next competitor is H-Squid, the runner-up at GP 7 Toll Square in October. Squid's got a long history of jamming both highly competitive and meme decks in equal measure, putting up great results this past year with decks such as White-Black Midrange and Envoy Aristocrats, each across 2 separate seasons and 2 separate builds. Squid's also a multi-time Worlds contender, having earned an invite to every World Championships since Worlds 2023. Squid's got a history of performing well with iconic decks of the format's history, such as Perspicacity Combo, JJ Mac, and Canopy Culling. And with their most recent big swing leading to the sudden redesign of Lightless Conquest back in February, I wouldn't be surprised to see them cook up something splashy for this month. November's qualifying player is Kumrak, another player that got in through a semifinals match, courtesy of the remainder of players having already qualified. Kumrak's made a name for themselves this year as the format's resident Golgari mid-range player, playing in all but one of the standard format GPs in this past year, playing it in all but one of the standard format GPs in this past year. There we go. I got that sentence correct. Their efforts have led to solid innovations to the strategy and has cemented Golgari mid-range as a mainstay of the format that everyone has to at least respect on some capacity. It's gotten some solid tools this past season, but their record has looked sketchy against Control, which has been a major force of the Solitaire meta. So time will tell whether they pivot to a new strategy to bully Control, or if innovations to Golgari midrange have helped them put blue players in their place. The only player to land at 2 qualifying points, putting them ahead of everyone in the field besides Dr. Chipmunk and Levasaur, is 7 Nyx. The winner of December's Elseworlds Eternal GP, as well as GP Carousel at the start of this year. Nyx introduced everyone to the innovation that was Esper Passage this Eternal GP, a combo that had skirted under the radar for over a year and had yet to be caught until they brought it to a technically undefeated run, only dropping a match due to scheduling conflicts and being responsible for dealing the only defeat the other player on the strategy received. They followed that up with another strong run at GP Carousel using Mono Black mid-range, packing a full 8 draw 2s for 2 and a playset of main deck duresses to absolutely brutalize the control decks in the field. Though their run back in February failed to secure a 3rd crown, owing in part to the post-patch hit to Transcendent Council shaking the deck's foundation a bit, they've clearly shown that they have a solid grip on the format in its current state. They are also a former Worlds contender, having competed in Worlds 2024, so this won't be their first rodeo. The Twiltree League leaderboards were actually flush with already qualified players. While Lee took the title, Kumrock, H-Squid, and Dr. Chipmunk were also all lined up behind them for accolades. With all 4 of them already having a seat at the table, the qualification passed to Tremor, who certainly has quite the underdog narrative lined up for themselves. They picked up the format at the start of the Twiltree rotation, building up a name for themselves as a frequent player of Goober Storm, a combo deck built around using gubernatorial fundraiser and clone spells to start generating mass mana with each spell you play. Assembling that engine alongside a creature with a cheap enough wander cost allowed infinite mana generation, and then could funnel that mana into the payout of their choice. They did, however, also put up a couple top cut finishes with other strategies over the last 4 months. Finishing in the quarterfinals last month with a red-white Karaz Monument list brewed by Caillou 102, and getting to the quarterfinals in our annual Eternal GP with a fair Esper Flicker strategy. We'll have to wait and see whether they run back Monument or pivot to something different, but I could see Tremor just discovering a combo and hiding it for just this occasion. All Who Wanders our first qualifying player of this current season, getting the semifinal seat courtesy of another case of every player in the top 4 already having the title. He's the 4th curator to lock a seat and one of the most consistent players in the format's history. A total of 26 lifetime top cut finishes and 6 Grand Prix wins, both of which he is the current record holder for, as well as being tied for the most second place finishes and the most semifinals finishes. Naturally, he's been a contender in all 4 prior World Championships, with the furthest run being 2 matches shy of the lower bracket finals in Worlds 2023. It's been a rough year for All Who Wander, as he hasn't gotten any wins to his name this year, but considering his consistent performances over his Rev career and his familiarity with grindy control and mid-range strategies, which seem to be very popular this season, there's a real possibility for him to sweep the field by storm, even if he never begins a match on the play. Stasis isn't the only former world champion looking to reclaim the crown. 2024 world champion Caillou 102 has one of the best lifetime win rates of any long-term player of the format, winning nearly 69% of the over 600 matches of Revolution that he's played to date, and has served as a Revolution curator in the past as well. He took down Grand Prix Kinda City with an undefeated 7-0 run with Jeskai Dragon Control, merging the tools of Dr. Chipmunk's second place Battle Control list with the Dragon package that Silver Parabellum had taken to a 5-0 league run with in January. Setting up a resilient control shell with unstoppable counterspells in the mana base, life total padding, card advantage, and the multi-angle lethal lines of Curation plus Iviana, Offset Daemon Beatdown, burying people with value off of Path of Scales, and just killing them with big spirit beatdowns between Eltanon and Ukius Crusaris. Even with Jeskai Control getting a lot of scrutiny at the start of March, he ran the deck back to multiple 5-0 league run wins in the start of March, and took the deck to a semifinals finish, substituting the battles and battle-focused direct damage for more stack interaction and other Haymaker spells. He is a very well-worn competitor entering his 4th World Championship, and while these aren't the best tiebreakers he's ever had to work with, he's certainly a player to watch. And last, and by no means least, we have CFT Sock, a Revolution first timer that started playing last month and turned that into an immediate Grand Prix win with Izzet Tempo, making his lifetime win rate 100%. Despite last month being his first time playing Revolution, this won't be his first World Championships, as he's actually a two-time Magic World Championships competitor with a ton of other pro-level play under his belt, including several Pro Tours and countless tournaments both online and in person. His professional experience was on full display last month, sweeping the field soundly with only a single game loss across the entire tournament. He's a seasoned deck builder that's worked to develop several popular strategies across major Magic formats, from Teamer Otters in Standard to Jewel Shops in Vintage, and has ample custom Magic competitive experience as well, as both a competitor in Rev's predecessor format, Custom Standard, as well as Magic Set Editor Modern. He's certainly the newest face in this particular scene, but he is far from a stranger to competition of this caliber, and is likely to put on quite a performance in his second ever Revolution tournament. With last month proving that this meta is more open than I thought, and with some of the bigger power outliers being nudged down slightly this month, it'll be quite a show to see what everyone else brings to the World Championships, and also quite an ordeal to figure out what I'm going to bring in turn. It'll be my first time competing on this stage, so I look forward to hopefully providing you all a run to remember. And that wraps up our patch review for April of 2026. It's going to be a whirlwind of a month here, with Worlds underway right as we creep up on the 2 sets announced for next month's rotation, bringing our format to 8 active sets for the first time as of May. I've got a lot of work ahead of me to prepare for Worlds, and also brace myself mentally for the set reviews. So as always, links in the description below lead you to all the key resources if you want to check out the format for yourself, either to try Archaeologist, join in on the Fantasy Worlds hype, or get yourself ready for next season. And until next time, I'll see you all in the Revolution chat. Bye-bye!